A juggernaut in the space of golf, a titan in the industry, Jess McAlister. She joins me. She's founder and CEO of Catalyst 9. They do so many things from talent management to working with creatives to brand building and so much more in the golf space, really taking over. And so it's only fitting that we have her on the Honest Something podcast. I'm Bryan Fenley. I call different sports for different networks. And this is a place where we bring on those in the world of media and the world of sport to not only highlight their professional lives, but also their personal lives as well. And Jess, I'm thrilled to have you on. You have such an incredible story, and I look forward to diving into that with you. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
So we were talking beforehand, and obviously I'm excited to have you on as well. We were talking before we recorded, and one of the things that I admire about you is that you speak your mind, you speak truth to power. What about that is so important and imperative for what you do, that you say what's on your mind, you're straightforward, and you're not backing down, and you basically just tell it how it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think being a woman in business for one, being a woman in sports, another one. So it's kind of getting hit twice. But, I think when you are a business owner and entrepreneur in whatever category or industry, you have to have conviction. And you have to be able to fight for what you are doing, because if you're not fighting, who's going to believe you? I mean, who's going to want to fight with or for you? So, and I don't want to use the word fight, but you do. I think to hold that space, to create something that's never been done before, to prove a point, and to drive whatever mission home that you have. And, for me, since day one, through my last company and even before that other company, getting into the golf space was truly, how do I help change the landscape for women in the space, that then soon kind of turned into, how do I help move this next generation forward? How do I help the golf industry and this golf community that I love so much, help them navigate kind of all these changes that are happening, even pre-COVID, right? So that's kind of where that stance comes from my end. And I think having gone through so much and proving what needs to be done correctly in the golf space, from the digital and social side from the very beginning, as it pertains to marketing, people branding, brands kind of adapting to what's going on, in golf in particular. So,
How have you noticed in you building the brands of others that your brand yourself has also grown?
oh, it's grown. I 7 years ago knew nothing about the industry and how it worked and the ecosystem and the community and all of that. And it took so much learning and building friendships with people and wanting to learn. And that's where, I fought for what I knew I needed to do, but I also recognize that this is such a precious and beautiful community and industry. There's a lot of learning before you can come in and start trying to make some changes. But I think through building other people's brands, whether that's moving apparel or CPG brands or whatever it may be along, and advising them, but the people themselves, I mean, I've retained my clients for 5+ years, and there's a reason. They are friends, they are family, they've become that. They're relationships that mean a lot to me, but seeing them be able to grow and kind of lead the charge in whatever it is, their voice and conviction is in the industry, whether that be to grow the women's game or focus on youth or whatever it may be, right? Or maybe it's just pure storytelling and content creation. They do a really good job of it and it's fun. And so I think through that, having become the, like, I don't know, gatekeeper or whisperer to content creators in the golf space is really cool. It wasn't really welcomed in the beginning, but now it's a necessary tool in people's marketing kits. So,
You said it, Jess. It hasn't in the past been very welcome. I would think, golf, there's a lot of tradition. There's a lot of, hey, we've done it this way for so long. Let's keep it that way. Not exactly sure that that's the way to go, but there are a lot of powers that be that feel like that's the way. So here you are. You're going in a different direction. And I'm sure, you talk about your career from the start, and there had to have been a lot of pushback. And you've talked about that and standing up for what you believe in. And that's what we started this conversation with. But when you face all of the resistance. And sometimes you're like, well, who is with me here? I have this idea. I know it's good. I know it can go places. From an inner strength perspective, what does it take to keep going when you're getting all of this backlash thrown at your way, but you know what you're doing is the right thing to do?
Well, I love being right. So, so there's that. And I just feel, I mean, I don't know if it's a bad habit of liking to prove people wrong. It sure is exhausting, I'll tell you that. But at the same time, it's like, well, if you don't do it, who's going to? Or I don't want to see someone else do it and mess it up and then get in my way. So it's kind of like, how do I help people understand? Um, but yeah, I mean, it gets exhausting for sure. And I think people see only that side of me. So they have this assumption of who I am as a person. So it's really fun when I actually get to meet people offline or at events or whatever, and they're like, wait, you're actually really nice. Or, something along those lines. I'm like, yeah, well, work and personal. Sometimes they are separate and you gotta act separately and you gotta not take things so personally. I think that's something probably my biggest lesson in all of this. As you mentioned, how do you take that beating? How do you take that resistance? It's like it's really tough, but you just if you know what you're doing is right and you know that you're a good person and you're there to provide services for other people. Like I am in the work of servicing others. This isn't about me at the end of the day. So it's making sure that they're okay and that you're moving something that you believe in so much, which is the golf space and the golf industry and this, again, incredible community. Like you want to help them move forward. And sometimes it takes a little kick.
When people meet you, and you talked a little bit about this, when people there is the presence that you give on social media and people know you as somebody who gets things done and you are a go-getter. And then there is this different side of you when you have like a face-to-face conversation with, say, a friend or a client or somebody, and they get to see a different side of you. What more is that like when they see, this person that is conquering the golf space, but then how much do you I mean, I don't want to say change is the right word, but what is it about and more about the person you become to where, yeah, there is what we see on the outside. That is what social media and how we want to present ourselves. But then there's this also other side of you that people that know you well, that are in your inner circle, they get to see too.
Yeah. I mean, I think I mentioned keeping things separate, but I think one thing that crosses over into both and really shines through with who I am, no matter, what space I'm in, is passion, right? I am so extremely driven and passionate when it comes to what I do on a day-to-day basis with my companies, with my clients, with my partners. And I'm also fiercely passionate when it comes to my personal life. And I'm very cautious of who I let in. And because I also love fiercely, I love my family, I love my friends, I love my clients, I love my dog, like 100%, 1,000%. You're never going to get 5% of me. You know what I mean? So I think that's something that translates over. And I think when you get to understand somebody in that light, both personally and professionally, you do see what resonates and you do see the why, right? And then you kind of understand the how a little bit after that.
What we talk about how, why, the what about, let's say, what it would be like to be a dog in your house and how spoiled that dog would be. What is that like?
Well, I just got a puppy. Well, not just, I guess last October. She's almost a year old, in August. She's a Leo, so she's crazy. Um, she is very spoiled. She is a little crazy, just like her mom, but very sweet, very loving, has way too many toys. She has a full 5 acres of land to run around on. So I'm sure she's super happy.
It seems like obviously you're very happy when it comes to being on the golf course from a business standpoint, but even without the business, you just going out on the course, there seems to be something that is freeing for you, that it's some sort of escape. How is the sport almost a source of therapy for you.
I mean, you just said it, it's therapy. I think that's where the obsession kind of came from. And when I become obsessed with something, I become pretty relentless and whatever the pursuit is that I come up with in my head. So,
Yeah.
with golf, I grew up around a golf course, my whole life. My dad golfs, and that's kind of how I had an inch in before. And then when I kind of took it up myself, so I could play with him. And then I was going to the driving range by myself. I'm from San Diego, but I lived in LA for 14 years. And back then, there weren't many girls or friends that wanted to do that. And, my friends are inviting me to go to Pilates or yoga. And I'm like, no, I want to go to the driving range and whack the crap out of balls, and put my headphones in, and you go to another world. And I think that's what's so beautiful about golf. It's like, whether it's the driving range for 30 minutes where you just get that time to yourself or with your friends or with your family, and same thing going out on the golf course, whether you're playing 9 holes or 18 or 36, whatever it may be. I feel like these days it's very hard to go and golf by yourself because tee sheets are full to the max, which is a bummer now. But I think it's a, like you said, it's a form of escape, and it's also something that really drives community. It brings people together. You can go out alone and meet people, and you never really know where that takes you. You can go out with your family, you go with your friends, and you learn a lot about people in 4 to 6 hours, right? So I think it's so beautiful. I think it's such an incredible escape, but not only as an escape, but it's also a great business tool. And I think that's something that a lot of young girls and women are also starting to notice. Like, yeah, it's fun. You go out and have some drinks or no drinks or whatever. And you might find yourself getting some business done on the golf course. And I mean, that's how guys have done it for years, right? Now we all know.
When you're on the golf course and you said you're listening to headphones, what are you listening or you have headphones on? What are you listening to?
Whew, it's a loaded question. Depends on my mood. I mean, it could be anything from death metal to rap and hip hop to house music to opera. Just really depends on what mood I'm in.
What would get you to listen to opera when you're at the driving range or on the golf course?
For classical music, oh, I have to be really angry. Like, I have to be on the verge of like scary angry.
But
So,
wouldn't that be the death metal though? When you're, that
no,
or
that
that's
probably makes me happy. Like, I could listen to Tool, for example, all day. Iron Maiden, all of them. I mean, I listen to that when I work out. I have a personal trainer, and it's funny to see the reactions of the clients that come in after me. And I think, I don't know, it gets you like pumped up, it gets you excited.
is
So,
it the beat? Is it the lyrics? What about songs that you like most resonate with you? What is it from them?
um, I'd say like on the hip hop, I'd also add in like Afro beats and music. It's like happy and fun. Hip hop obviously kind of makes you feel like a gangster, right?
Uh-huh.
Uh, brings that confidence level up a little bit. I mean, I've been listening to hip hop since I was like 5 years old, so that, and then I don't know, I guess it just depends on my mood. I have such a stressful day to day that I don't really know where I'm going to end up at. So picking my playlist it's on when I'm working versus picking my playlist when I'm working out or going to golf, like it's very dependent on how I'm feeling, which can change by the second.
What about the playlist going into say a big meeting? You're like, all right, this is could be really cool. Or meeting, we could be potentially working with some really neat people. The playlist that you might be
um
listening to then.
I feel like I'm prepping for a big client pitch or something like that, I probably need to focus. So, like, if I'm, reviewing a proposal or like prepping and thinking, I'll probably put house music on, which I know is really kind of weird, but it almost like numbs me. It's like white noise for me. So it calms me down. Like Chris Malinchak playlist is a good one.
Right.
Trying to think, Rufus the Soul playlist, like things like that, like Deep House, is very calming for me. So I would probably put that on. And it's
I
happy.
and it is happy. When do you find that you are even outside of work, and that could include what you're doing with your work, but when you are at your happiest?
Where am I or what am I doing?
Where and when are you at your happiest?
Gosh, some interesting questions.
I told you this was going to be a little bit different, but you know what? You're never going to forget this interview. I guarantee it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm always going to be happiest on a golf course, first of all. So if any chance I get, I think it's so funny. Like I feel like other industry friends kind of feel this way too, and I hope it changes. And I think it is changing. But it's like the more you work in golf, the less you play. And I found that to be true, and it's very tragic. I'm at golf courses. I'm at the coolest golf courses in the world all the time. But I'm not playing them. You know what I mean? So I feel like for sure my peak happiest would be a day of no worries on the golf course and just like let it rip kind of thing. Otherwise, here at home in Leapers Fork, Franklin, Tennessee, and just being in the country, and it is my serene, happy place where no one else is or can find me. So that's, I would say, hanging out in Leapers Fork by the creek, or at this resort down here and just enjoying nature, you know?
What are you thinking about when you're out in nature? Like a lot of how like when you're in nature, how much of the time are you thinking about work? Like if you were to
99% of it. Usually the second I'm calm and I feel calm, I'm like, wait, what's wrong?
yes, I
Or
get
I'm like, what the hell am I doing with my life? You know? I go into this really weird contemplation mode, and then I like start creating a separate notes in my note tab, and then I'm like, oh my God, I have this idea, you know. So I feel like those times I question what the heck I'm doing with my life, but I also use that time to ideate. Like I'm working on another business as we speak that was hoping would launch in June, but hopefully launches the top of next year now. So that's really exciting for me. Hyper focus on women in the golf space that will eventually turn into women across different sports. But the format of this business can be kind of whitelisted for anyone across any industry. But more on that soon. So I get a lot of ideas on how I can make that better, because I think when you're starting a business or to have the luxury to be able to really think about what is it you want to do. And again, it's another business servicing people. So it's like, how can I do the very best I can? Like, what have I learned? I've obviously taken a lot of learnings from my past company into this new company, and what worked, what didn't, and all of that, which I think will make this company fiercely successful. But yeah, again, see, I can't even like not talk about work.
this is what's fascinating because I think that in working in this space as well, so much of our identity is attached to work. And so much of our happiness is attached to work as well. And I in listening to you, I feel like there's a lot of that comes with it, which makes you so good at what you do. And when you're talking on panels and you're making speeches, what are the notes, the messages that you want to get across? Because you get invited to speak in front of people a lot, women in sports and in other conferences. And when you're up there and people are looking at you, what are the normally the messages that you like to get out there for people that best explain you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the audience, right? Like if I'm speaking to youth or young kids, I would try to temper my my aggressiveness. And I try to inspire, right? And help kind of entertain and inspire and share why this is such a cool place to work, and why, follow your dreams, stay in golf, stay in sports, right? But I think from an industry standpoint or just kind of general stuff, I think it really is kind of cracking open what people think they know of me, of like, okay, she's this like aggressive businesswoman, you can't say no to her, she's so da da, like whatever. I don't really know what people say about me. I know some things, but I think I try to share that a lot of that is not really who I am, but also I really care. And that could be a double-edged sword. I really care about what I do. I care about the people I work with, that I work for. I care about this community. I care so much that sometimes it bites you in the bum. So I think that if I could get something across, it's, I care. I care a lot. And, I plan to be here for a while.
Oh, that's in like you said, you've got another business upcoming. That's a tease. I feel like there's so much more. You've already done so much, and there's only more to be had here. You said it, fierce, aggressive. These are things that show how much you care. And when you have that, as your sweet dog, who is absolutely gorgeous, that I see, that all of those things combine to make a good team. And Jess, as we wrap up this conversation, I think like you said it, people when they get to meet you, they're like, okay, yeah, she can be really aggressive and she's a go-getter, but then she also has that love and that care, which you always have, but there's a different side of you that you show in when you're having these one-on-one conversations as you were talking about. I think we got to see all forms of you in this conversation, which is exactly what I was hoping to do. Jess McAlister, founder and CEO of Catalyst 9. I'm Bryan Fenley. Thanks so much, Jess, for joining me and hopping on and sharing your story in a, I would have to think, unique way.
Thank you. This is awesome. I love chatting with you.